It has been said that average people want you to stay average. Welcome to the Breaking Average podcast, the podcast designed to challenge you to break the mold that average has on the world. Each episode offers insights directly from those who choose to break average every day. Now, for the latest insights, here are your hosts, Paul Gustafson and Rick Morris.
Welcome to another edition of the Breaking Average podcast. I'm your co-host, Rick Morris. The other co-host, always on that other side of the screen, is Paul Gustafson. How you doing, Paul?
Rick, I am fantastic. Thank you. I always enjoy this time together. We start off, I should share this with everybody. We have a lot of chatter before we even turn on the record button. And we share some stories about what's happening in our world. But what's really neat is that once we turn on the record button, there's a whole new another level that kicks in. So those conversations that we have before we hit the record are pretty magical. But also what takes place here is pretty cool too. So I am excited. I have some thoughts in terms of what we're going to talk about today. But I know, just like always, there's going to be new, fresh thoughts that happen real time. And I can't wait to see what happens there.
Yeah, we do a little session, inspired by different things. You brought things to the table. I brought things to the table, but we realized, around season 2, I want to say, even, when Harbor and Diane was with us, that we had to have like this warm-up period. Yeah. Like our first 10 minutes was never really good, because a lot of times we would just get started. It's not that it wasn't good, but it wasn't our best, right? Because our brains hadn't woken up or we hadn't gotten to the flow of the conversation yet. So you and I had started this habit of like just sharing, what's happened over the past week, or, what's going on, or talk a little, basketball, or, any of that stuff. Just to get our brains going. Yeah, it definitely makes a difference. Plus, it's a great opportunity for you and I to catch up anyway, which is one of our favorite things to do when we record on our podcast mornings. So let's talk about today, though. Today, we wanted to talk about and continue our how-to series. And for those of you that are watching on the Empowered Living Show or seeing us on YouTube, it's always been inspired by my Sisyphus right there, which is how to manage or how to limit distractions, Paul.
Yeah, I love this topic, right? So we all get distracted. And we really need to tackle this thing head on. I'm sure over the course of the next few years, as we continue to do podcasts, this will be a reoccurring discussion because distractions are part of life. They come at us. And here's the deal. Every distraction, have you ever noticed this, Rick? Every distraction looks like an attraction. It's hard to tell the difference between an attraction and a distraction. They're kind of almost the same. So let's talk about what makes something truly a distraction. What do you think a distraction is?
A distraction is anytime I take my eye off the ball. And with ADD, it happens a lot. I think the easiest description of what a distraction is an excuse for me not to do what I'm focused on. And that's really because if I was super excited and I was super focused and I was really, really into what it is that I was doing, a distraction couldn't win. It's not possible to win at that point. It's any time that it does win, I have to question, why did it win? But that's just part of my brain. We'll get into that a little bit later as well, Paul. What do you think? What's your answer?
Yeah, I love that element of it. So to me, it's recognizing that, something is competing for your attention. And there are some things that are worthy of that interruption and competing for your attention because they're important. And there are other things that compete for your attention, that grab your attention because, wow, that looks interesting, or that seems satisfying, or that's something I want to pull on. And when we do that, the context switching of what happens there, Rick, you know this, right? None of us are good at multitasking. I don't care who you are. And some are better than others. I understand that. But none of us are perfect at multitasking. And when we're distracted like that, when something comes in our way and it disrupts us from what we were doing, then trying to get back on track to where we were. That's a struggle point for me, at least. How about you?
All the time. There'll be times where I'll make a mistake, and that's where I really catch it. But, you can go, if you look through my browser, you can see almost the divergent paths, and where I make the mistake is on that fifth divergent path. It's so many times, like I finished this task and realized I got distracted by that task because I was over here doing this, which was a distraction from this over here, where I was doing that, which was a distraction from this over here. Right. And it's wild because there's a lot of times I can go close all the right parentheses is what I always call that. Right. Because if you're a developer, if you're coding, if you work in Excel, you open up that left parentheses for an operation. And then sometimes you have to open up another left parentheses to start another operation within that. That's the way my brain is all the time. So sometimes I've got to remember to go close all the right parentheses. I've got to go. And sometimes I've closed 4 out of 5 and there's an error in the spreadsheet. I got to count how many parentheses, right? You know what I'm talking about.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think the Excel example is perfect, right? So you're in there, you're doing the formula and you're dropping down this beautiful, beautiful formula. And it's got all the parentheticals in there and it's got to be all nested and everything. And if you miss one, boy, that throws you off. And that's what happens with distractions, right? I don't think we realize things are distractions sometimes until it's too late. I love Winston Churchill's quote on this. He doesn't use the word distraction, but he's really talking about it. He says, "You'll never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks." I just love that. I love that. And this is before social media, folks. All right. You'll never reach your destination if you stop and throw stones at every dog that barks. He could have changed it to says, you'll never reach your destination if you stop and look at your phone every time it burps and chirps or notifies you of something.
Amen.
Right. And how often does that happen?
Yeah. One of the worst things that took me a while to fully manage was my Apple Watch, because the Apple Watch it buzzes on any notification and everybody wants to notify you. Every app wants to notify you, whatever. So it was learning how to not allow every text to come through, not to allow every phone call to come through. Right. But the things that hit my Apple Watch now are either specific people or specific things that are allowed distractions to me. Otherwise, it doesn't hit my phone, my watch at all. So when my watch buzzes, I know it's something worthy of distraction, or should be something worthy of distraction at that point. But I've limited it down, not just to like text messages coming through, whose text messages can come through on my phone.
Yeah. Right. The notification comes in. You want to see, well, who is it? I remember this funny story, true story. My wife and I were at a restaurant and, I got a notification. And so I checked it and I was like, oh, I need to respond to that, and I forget where I think she just powdered up or something, came back. So I thought I had a moment to do it. She comes back down, she's sitting down and I'm like responding to it. I was like, don't be right there, doing my little thing. And then I get another text. The other text is from my wife, who's right across the table from me. She says, I'm right here.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry. Yep.
That one's well played right there.
Yeah.
Well played.
That was like, that one hit me.
Yeah.
So, and maybe that's a trick you guys can do. If you're at the table and somebody's at their phone, just say, hey, we're right here. This is right here.
Yeah.
I think of somewhere I came across this: distraction means drawing away of the mind, right? So it's drawing us away from what it is that we need to be present doing. And so I think that's the question, is what's the most important focus I need to have in this moment? And does that notification or whatever it is that's happening around me, is that going to help me or does that hinder me? Because if I can just stay focused, despite everything that's happening in my world around me, if I can just stay focused, I can continue to move forward, make progress, and be able to achieve what I need to. I'm not going to look at every dog that barks. So that's some thoughts there. But what are some of the things
interesting, tools that help us in communication? But it's just like Slack. I mean, it's great that I can Slack somebody and it's, kind of the instant conversation. Some people use Teams or, different messaging types of apps, but it also becomes such a huge, I've learned how to turn notifications off on that. I'll go to Slack when I'm ready to go to Slack. But if I keep it up and keep it running, it's just, like I'm a slave to everybody else's schedule.
Yeah. So let's go through this. Let's have some fun, and maybe our listeners and viewers can watch and do this with us. So let's go back and forth, all the different little tools, technologies, things that distract you. So you mentioned Slack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huge.
All right. So I'll go next, and we'll just go back and forth, like all the things that we have in our environment that distracts us. Mine is Teams. I love Teams, but boy, it's like, okay, I'll just say that Teams. You understand? Slack, Teams are pretty much the same. All right, your turn.
I have 11 email addresses.
11. All right, and so are like some of those Google and you get.
No, these are all
you get
all different business things that I need to respond to.
And,
so you have R squared. So the big ones are R squared, right? I have my Growth Day account.
Yeah.
I've got my Social RX account. I've got my rickamorris.com account.
Yep.
I've got TopTal account. I've got my Orange Theory Fitness account. So those right there are all work stuff that could come through.
Yep. All right.
And by the way, it's Gmail and Outlook. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so good. All right, email. I've got 4 different email accounts, right? Maybe 5, maybe 6. I don't know. I don't check 5 and 6, but they're there. All right. And by the way, I get 2,000 emails a day.
Yeah.
All right. I can't. I've just learned to say, you know what? I'm pushing them away. You know, if I don't know them, if it says unsubscribe, it goes in a folder. We can talk about that. Little tips for that. All right. So the other one I have is Twitter.
Facebook.
For whatever reason, I love it when I get a little tweet, because it's not as often as Facebook. So you mentioned Facebook, and boy, that'll make the phone go dingy all day long, won't it?
Yeah.
All right. So Twitter, Facebook. How about Instagram?
TikTok.
I'm not a TikTok guy.
Don't get started.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid.
Yeah.
What was the other one that was really popular? Another social media
Vine.
app. Is it Vine? Yeah.
Well, Vine was big for a while, and that started the 3-minute kind of video thing. And so Instagram picked up Reels. TikTok became the thing that really picked up on that. But
it could be YouTube for some folks, right? They're looking to see what notifications they got, or what, or Vimeo, or whatever their media server might be, right? It could be another one.
So are these things that distract us, or could be just distractions to?
Yeah. So for me, these are distractions. So YouTube, if I get an alert on a YouTube that I'll kind of take a look. I've turned it off, but at one time I was just trying to like, ooh, YouTube.
Yeah, but you can get into that YouTube black hole real quick.
Yeah.
That one video leads to the next one, it leads to the next one. And next thing you know, 2 hours have come by and you don't know what happened.
Yeah. And I think the biggest distraction for me of the ones that we mentioned so far is probably Facebook, right?
Yeah.
Because you can get drawn, to your point of what you just said, you can get drawn into Facebook, and before you know it, you've spent 20 minutes, 30 minutes just sliding up and going down, just kind of pulling through stuff. And you're like, wow, and you're you never catch up. Right?
That's right.
So
I'd see if are we at the, what other,
so
LinkedIn's another one.
Right. So now we're talking
I get distracted by, so QuickBooks for me.
What's happening with QuickBooks on that?
So
just
QuickBooks
alerts?
I balance every day. So transactions that come in from various credit cards, bank accounts, sales, all those different things. So I've got a routine that I have each morning, but then, there's distractions, notifications that come through there. Stripe is part of that. So a sale has gone through. So I get a notification of Stripe.
Yeah. And those are cool to see, right? Dollar signs, right?
Yeah.
Ooh, some money came in. Yeah. Yeah. But it takes your eyes off the ball though. So, I mean, it's good. It's good to be notified and be aware of some of these things, but let's get into it. I mean, text is another one, right? That happens a lot, right? We get text messages, and that's probably the predominant one of all the ones that we've mentioned for me. And I live by text. I think it's it's phenomenal, but boy, it can be distracting. I love the new feature in the iPhone where you can set up different states in terms of a work state so that you don't get, and you can turn that off. That's a really cool feature. It's the focus feature. You can have a do not disturb driving, personal, work, or sleep. That's just the default, and you can add other ones. So that's kind of neat. But what are some of the other things that you do to kind of minimize some of those distractions?
Something I learned to do early on, and I still do, is allow them to a point. So one of the things that if you ever been to Franklin Covey back in the day planner, the A, B, and C priority, and carrying stuff over, all that stuff. But the first thing they do is they guarantee you in this time management seminar that they can promise you can schedule an 8-hour day and leave, come in at 8, leave at 5, or whatever the 8-hour day is for you. And how they do that, though, is they say for the first 2 weeks, you need to monitor your distractions and count how much you're distracted. So some people are distracted 6 hours of the day, and some people are distracted only 2 hours of the day, depending on your job title, what it is that you're doing, and what your responsibilities are. And so if you're a 6-hour-a-day person, then you only schedule 2 hours worth of work to get done. And that's how you can guarantee your 8 hours. And that's why you had the A, B, and C priorities. I've always taken that with me to the point of a lot of times it's okay for me to be distracted because, again, I may not be super focused on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing anyway. So I have my supreme focus time is generally between 5 and 7 in the morning and 8 and 10 in the morning. So I get up early, but sometimes a lot it's because something's on my mind. I can come right down to the office, get 2 hours of focus before the kids are up, before I got to take people to school, before other people are waking up and giving me distractions, all that other stuff. If I get those 2 blocks of time, I can conquer my day. I can generally get everything that I wanted to accomplish and more that day done. And then the rest, I just leave open for distractions. So it's like I'm in bonus time in a way, right? So that's the way I think of it, is like I already completed everything I want to do. So everything I'm doing now is just a bonus. So if I get distracted from it, I'm okay. That's how I've had to build my mindset, getting into things.
I like that. That's good. Part of this too, you're basically what you're saying is, hey, I schedule my distractions. I
schedule my focus, really, because it's a smaller amount of time is my focus. So I schedule my focus to the times I'm going to be the most productive and at the times that I'm going to get the least distractions. Yeah. And then I allow the distractions to win at that point from that point forward.
So we'll pull on this some more, but let's kind of paint a scenario. Your phone, let's say you're driving somewhere. Is your phone in, and we're being totally transparent, guys. All right. There's no tickets. We're not issuing any speeding tickets or reckless driving tickets or anything like that. But your smartphone right there in your hand or not, or is it in the trunk? Where is it? Where is your smartphone when you drive?
It's plugged into my Apple CarPlay, which can allow me to hear texts and respond to texts, hear emails and respond to emails without, hands-free. So
which basically, I love that feature.
Yeah. And I just say, let it read it to me, which if you'll remember, I got onto you and Mike Harper one time as I was driving to Orlando, because the two of y'all were having a text conversation with yourselves that you included me, but I was driving. So it was taking like 20 minutes for me to even hear it, because you guys just were shooting stuff back and forth. And I'm like, y'all are killing me right now. Like I'm trying to listen to a podcast and y'all are killing me right now. I remember that very clearly, man. I was like in like Albany, Georgia somewhere, and you guys were just texting the crud out of me. So yeah.
But yet we don't know, right? So sometimes when somebody's you're being distracted, the person that is doing the distraction may not even know that they are interfering with that, right? So, it's a tough situation, because we want to be sensitive to people's time and their effort. So first of all, I apologize for that, but again, we didn't know. But I love the CarPlay, right? I have, my wife's got it. I don't have it in my car, and I wish I did. So full disclaimer, phone's there, red light. I'm at a red light, guys. I can't help myself. I need to check and see, what did I miss? What was there? Now I'm not checking social media feeds. I'm just looking at my text feeds or my Teams, because I'm connected with work. I want to know what's going on. If somebody chirped me, I kind of want to look. But one of the things that I've done before, and I need to do it again, is take the phone and just put it in the trunk. Let's not even have it, at least in this car that doesn't have CarPlay, because a distracted driver is not a good driver ever. So you've seen this, right? You pull up to a light. How many people are actually looking at the light versus their phone?
Oh yeah, exactly.
Right.
I mean, everybody's on their phone. Not only that, but if you are sitting like where you're first on a red light and you've got, maybe you're turning left and you're waiting and you got all those people turning right, look into their cars. It's amazing to see how many phones you'll see or people looking at the phones as they're making that turn. It's insane.
As they're making the turn. I was talking to my neighbor who's a state trooper, and I asked him about the problem. I said, he says, Paul, smartphones are as much of a pandemic as COVID. Yeah. It's crazy. There are, we only pull people over if we see 2 infractions. We see the phone infraction all the time. In the state of Virginia, you can't have your smartphone in your hand when you're driving. And so his point was, when you're at the light, you're still driving, even though you're at the light and it's red, you're still in a motor vehicle on the road. And that's an infraction, but we won't pull over somebody unless we see something else play out. But it's invariably, I look around and I see it. And it's definitely a problem. But there's things that we can do. The distractions that we have with our phones and our devices, our smart devices. The cool thing about it is some of these devices gives us a way to optimize our attention too. So let's flip the switch a little bit here. Let's talk about some of the things that we do with our technology to make things easier for us. Anything that you do?
Well, yeah, I turn notifications off completely, right? So I do go into focus mode, especially when I know that I feel it. Like, I'm feeling creative. I know I want to write. I can shut everything down and, everything's fine. Even those emergencies, people are like, oh, I can't do that. It's like, yeah, you can. You just don't want to, right? That's always the big thing. I hear that a lot when I'm coaching. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. But I can go out and look on Facebook and see that they made 6 posts today. You know what I mean? Like, so you had time to make those posts, but we didn't have time to fill out something, that was to better yourself or to do yourself. It tells me you don't want to do it, and that's okay, right? That's okay. But that's what we have to start to paint that picture in. So what I do is I'll turn the notifications off. I'll go into focus time to where I really can focus. But I think I am like you though, that if a notification comes through, I never know. And I mean, you're a CIO of a company. I'm a COO of a company. So you never know if that's something that really requires your attention or not. And that's the hard part. And that's what's frustrating when, I get into these group texts with all these moms for, our boys are going to go somewhere, do something together. And, there's 142 texts and it's about the weather. And I can't get out of the group because I need to know certain information for, where my son's going. But I don't want to be rude and say, could you all take this conversation offline? Like, I don't need to be a part of this. But then every time it dings, like it could be, Brendan needing something from me right away. And so it's very, very hard for me to do that.
Yeah. And it's a great point, because we get text messages that are just trivial stuff. And then we get other ones that are really important, urgent and important. So, and our smartphones don't know the difference between the two yet. Maybe one day.
Well, they're starting to, though, because I can set a do not disturb, but allow Brendan Bouchard's text to come through. And my kids.
You can,
people.
So you can filter it on people, which is good. Yeah. That's what I like, some of these new features that are there. The one thing I do to kind of just echo what you're doing. Yeah, you can do a do not disturb. That's great. But the simplest thing to do, first of all, on the iPhones, and this is one of Steve Jobs. I don't know if you knew this or not. Most people didn't. I'm sure you did. When Steve Jobs came out with the phone, he said the one thing it'll always have, the one feature that every phone will always have, even though, look, there's no buttons on here anymore, but there is a little switch on the side. So I'm holding my phone up in front of everybody, and there's a little switch on the side, and it lets you just turn off the sound, the alertness. So when you're in a meeting you can just casually reach in. This is what Steve Jobs intended, is I want to be able to reach in and turn off my phone from it interrupting me in the middle of a meeting. And so there's a little switch right there. Boom, just click it off. Now you got to remember to turn it back on, or else your wife might say, hey, I was trying to text you. You missed my message. But nonetheless, it's a powerful feature. The other thing that I like to do is put it in airplane mode. Very quick and easy, because when I put it in airplane mode and I don't use Wi-Fi, then if you go to the movie theater, airplane mode, right? If you go somewhere and you know that you just need to have undivided attention and not disrupt everybody else around you, airplane mode. So those are a couple of things that I do. All right. So any other technology tips that you have?
No, not really. I always share the story of Sisyphus there, but the funniest part about that is that was a distraction that won. You know, I mean, like I was literally writing a blog post about distractions.
Yeah.
And thought, wouldn't it be cool if I had, a desk ornament or something on my desk to remind me of Sisyphus? And I was like, sure. And that distracted me. I went and bought it. That to me, I think is one of the funnier things about my distraction. My thing to remind me not to be distracted was a distraction in and of itself.
Yeah. That's interesting. That's kind of funny. That's good. I would say, I want to share more tech tips and tricks and all that. And maybe I can pull in a few more, but I want to just kind of jump into something that's really important here. And this will up level everybody. This up levels me. I know this is up level you, but this will up level every single person listening to this or watching this. And it's the power of boundaries. Know your boundaries. Take time to say, you know what? I'm a leader. I need to have that bounded space in terms of how I'm going to operate as that leader. I need to maintain a working memory of what it is that's important, what's urgent, what's critical, and create that space in terms of what your boundaries are, and allow those boundaries to actually, as you start to have relationships with different folks at different levels. Think of your rings. This is a really powerful element of it. Just draw a little target, kind of, like the target symbol for the store. Draw a little radar ring, and then start to think about, okay, who is it closest to me that I really need to focus in on? Family, Brendan Bouchard and Rick's case, those bosses. Who's important? These are the critical folks that I need to make sure that I have a working memory of who it is that I'm serving and serving for and teamed with. Those are the important people. And then there's others. It's not that you're discounting them or discrediting them at all, but they're not going to be in that inner ring or the next layer ring, right? So you have your inner circle. You may have a next layer inner circle, but there's different rings. And I think that really helps me a lot in really this idea of minimizing distractions by being clear on my boundaries. And, I ask this question. This is the simple question to help me with my boundaries every day. What do I hope to accomplish? What do I hope to accomplish? And so while I have boundaries, I also know that I have to be in real time. I have to be clear in terms of what those boundaries are for that moment, that effort, that project that I'm working on. What is it that I hope to accomplish? So any thoughts that you have in this boundary space?
Yeah, I think it gets far more complex now, though, in our current environment of many of us working from home. So if my distraction base, and this just happened to me last week, if my distraction base is that 5 to 7 in the morning, kind of like that's my ultimate focus, feel like it sets up my whole day. My daughter, who is rarely or if ever up at that time, decided, she just wanted to come down and chit chat. And I wasn't particularly focused on the chit chat. It wasn't like she had a problem or anything like that. She was just wanting to visit, which was sweet. But I was like, hey, I really got to, focus and get this done. And so she was a little upset with me in that afternoon. I asked her, I was like, why are you upset? And she's like, well, I just wanted to talk this morning. I was like, yeah, but you walked into my office. Like I didn't come out and sit down and then ignore you. Like I was focused. And just because you came in, there is a boundary there. And I've told you that 7 to 9 a.m. spot is my ultimate focus time, or 5 to 7 a.m. spot is my focus time. And I give you all the other time for distraction. But like, you could have asked too, like, are you busy? or are you working on something or something of that sort? Like it kind of goes both ways. But that's a difficult conversation to have, because even though, she's my baby girl, there's still times there's like, look, there's times to distract and there's times not to. So I think the boundaries thing, and it's always been like, I've been working from home since 2009. So this isn't a new thing, but it's something I still struggle with, is people think because you're home, you can be then you're accessible. Even today, like, no, I'm waiting. My son's out and about somewhere. Again, he's never up at this time on a Sunday, but he's going to be coming home here any minute. I'm expecting this distraction while we're filming this podcast. You know what I mean? Like I know it's coming, because in this place, my office is right here. I can see the front door. So those types of things. I think it's really difficult to set certain boundaries when you work from home, and that's adding a layer of distraction.
Yeah, I mean, great example, right? So here in this COVID world over the last 2.5 years, people are working from home more so than ever, and they're not creating the boundaries that they need in their workspace, even still. In fact, I laxed up on mine, which I dread, right? So I'm in a good space here, doors closed. On the door, it says, I'm on my own little island. It's a little cool sticker that's on the door. It reminds folks that, hey, I'm working. All right. When that door is open, I pull that sign down. Hey, free game. You can come knock. Door's always open there. But otherwise, I'm going to let you know. At work, same deal. I got a little sticker that says I'm in a meeting. All right. If I'm not, it'll say, please gently knock. Otherwise, my door is open. All right. So there's a reason why we created doors.
Yeah.
Use those doors. But when I'm out there in the living room, which I have been often, because it's so much more comfortable to sit on the couch than it is to sit at the desk, I'll be working and I am focused. And other than the dogs every now and then trying to get my attention, it's really good. But then occasionally my son or my wife, they walk by and they want to have a conversation. And it's kind of like the story that you just shared. I can be a little flustered, and I won't show it, but internally I'm like, I'm trying to get something done. I'm thinking about something and I'm trying to get it done. Well, shame on me for putting myself in a position where I'm allowing myself to be interrupted when I need to be focused. And it's not that I don't want to have that conversation with my son or my wife. I do, but I'm not helping myself, and I'm not helping them when I put myself in that kind of scenario. So I've got to have those boundaries, got to be clear on it. And I don't want to be locked away for days and days and days. Right. So we've got to come out of our cocoon too. So it's been
different for me on that, Paul, because, at the house, like when we bought the house that we were in, I bought it with the specific intent of where my office was going to be. It was upstairs. It was in the corner. It was, far away, had a door, the whole 9 yards. When I made the decision here in this condo, when I originally made the decision, my son was only going to be here every other 2 weeks. My daughter was going to be away. So I made the decision to make my office this living room. So it's got great light, it's really open floor plan and that kind of stuff. I didn't want to take all my stuff upstairs.
Yeah.
And so then, I end up with, full custody of my son, and then my daughter lives with me now instead of at college. So then she has her friends that come over in and out, and I want it to be an open door policy and people can come into our place at any time. But that means when they do, like, I'm right here at my desk, I could be on the phone with a client, could be podcasting, could be doing any of that stuff. So it's been a little bit different.
Yeah.
In terms of like, if you need something to eat, you got to walk by my desk, like the food. So there's distractions all the time, which wasn't our intent, but like, you fight the distractions, but it means that you have to have some difficult conversations at times too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get it, guys. Right. So it's hard to create that perfect environment, but I do like, the whole boundaries thing came from Dr. Henry Cloud.
Yeah.
Phenomenal book that I think we covered in one of our podcasts, Boundaries for Leaders. And he says essentially 3 things, right? Attend to what matters. And that's why it's so important to get clear on what it is that you want to accomplish each day. When attend to what matters, inhibit what does not. Inhibit that, inhibition is the ability to not do certain actions. So what can you inhibit? And then And then this other part is maintaining a working memory, just maintaining that working memory. It's, he talks about how our brain works, and I pulled on this whole cool thing about the reticular activating system. So from other sources, I was like, wow, our brain is wired. If we can really kind of identify what it is that's important, then our working memory is more optimized, better optimized to be able to accomplish the things that it is that we're set out to do. And our RAS, which sits at the base of our skull, the reticular activating system, is going to take notice all those things that are important to us. Otherwise, everything's a distraction. So it's pretty powerful. So I just want to encourage folks with this. There's some great tools, and I love Pocket. Do you ever use Pocket?
Mm-mm.
So Pocket's a really cool tool. So browser, right? Surfing. Let's be honest, right? How many tabs? Like before we started the podcast, dude, I had, and I still got a bunch. I'm looking at it right now. I've got about 14 tabs up in my web.
That's where I'm at. I just counted.
Browser, right? What does that mean? Well, that means that I'm clicking on links and opening new tabs. And I'm not closing the other tabs because I may want to go back, refer back to it a few more times, at least for me. Well, there's a cool tool called Pocket that you can kind of set up for where when you see something of interest, you can kind of right click on that link and say, yeah, I want to go back and look later. And you can have that go back and look later, because otherwise, if without that tool, what I'm doing is I'm clicking it and trying to gather as much info then and there, and it's taking me off what I should be working on. I'm not maintaining my working memory. So Pocket allows me to maintain my working memory by just kind of cataloging and capturing that information and being able to look at it later. And so I can curate. It's such a powerful way to curate content, and highly recommend it. And it works with your app, so it can sync, or your phone, so you can sync between your devices too.
Interesting.
So,
So is that your tip and challenge? Just go get Pocket?
I would say it's definitely a tip. I've got a better tip and challenge, but I'm ready. You ready for a tip and challenge?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, you want me to go?
Yep.
All right, time blocking. Guys, I'm going to give you the tip of the century here. It's time blocking. It is the most powerful tool, and I think I've mentioned it a few times on this podcast, but what I would do is carve out, like, you're working on something, and it might take forever, right? It's, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Well, a lot of us are working on elephants. So how do we eat that elephant? Well, what you want to do is time block things. I recommend either you can set this up different ways: 30 minute, 60 minute, 90 minute, no more than 90 minutes. And you're going to lock in. And this way you can notify folks, hey guys, I'm going to be working for the next 90 minutes or 60 minutes on a project, and just time block it. Set Siri or Alexa or whatever app you have to have that timer to alert you. But I prefer the 30 minutes actually, because it's a challenge. It's kind of fun. You can set it even like cleaning out your dishes in your kitchen. Most people don't want to do it. But I'll tell you what, if you walk into your kitchen, you got Alexa sitting on the counter, and you say, hey, Alexa, set 5-minute timer. All right. So this is a 5-minute time block. Set 5-minute timer. Now it's a game. You're trying to compete to see if you can unload the dishwasher in less than 5 minutes. Somebody's going to win. It's either going to be you or Alexa. And it's kind of a fun challenge. And I always like to beat Alexa on that challenge there. And it makes it go by really fast. So time blocking is really cool because it kind of puts a little bit more push on the completion of it. One of the things I've noticed over the years is that I actually tend to get work done better when I'm in a state of push. Like I feel like I've procrastinated all the way up to the end point, and then all of a sudden I know I got to crank it out and get it done. Well, I'm really I feel like there's a time crunch there, and so I am going against the clock and I'm pushing myself to get it done. Well, I can do the same thing with time blocking. So that's my tip and challenge. Start thinking about how you can do time blocks. You can use your smartphones to kind of set little timers on it, and rock on with that, man. It'll make a huge difference for you. How about what's your tip and challenge?
Yeah, it's similar. And I love that. I love the opportunity of just setting those 30-minute timers and trying to focus. It's similar in the sense of block time on your calendar for you. Mm-hmm. So what so many people do is try to schedule what's important to them around what seems to be important to everybody else.
Yeah.
So the first thing you should have on any of your calendars is your meeting time, your space.
Yep.
So for instance, when I started down this, this wellness journey and working out, I played with the different times, but I found this 9 to 10 a.m. class was perfect for me. And so I just put that on my calendar, and I actually blocked off the half an hour before and after. So I have 8:30 to 10:30 blocked off on Tuesdays and Thursdays on all of my calendars till the end of time, right? Just repeating.
Yeah.
And, lo and behold, things get scheduled around it. Right. But I guarantee you, if I tried to not, if I wanted to just hit the 9 a.m., if nothing else was scheduled, things would get scheduled all the time during that time.
Yeah.
And so it's just one of those things that I've seen somebody actually have, 4 different time blocks that they put on their calendar every day. So they only take meetings from 8 to 10 and from 2 to 4. That's their meeting time. If you need them, that's when they're available. Sometimes I think that's a little extreme, right? Because there's things that can happen. But at the same time, I have, those 2-hour blocks on Tuesdays and Thursday, and I have 90-minute blocks on Monday, Wednesday, Friday that are like my blocks that are like, getting my status reports done or getting prepared for the team meeting or aligning it, the board for stand up, those types of things. So I have those blocks Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I have my workout blocks Tuesdays, Thursdays, and then everything else I allow to be scheduled, anywhere else. So it's very similar that if you're not going to do the 30-minute time or the hour time or the 90-minute time that you're suggesting, at least grab an hour and create a recurring meeting that's for yourself.
I love that. It's so important, right? So, I mean, we get calendar jacked all the time, right?
Oh yeah.
We're in environments where folks can, the easiest way to get somebody's attention is to get on their calendar. I've had folks who I don't even know who send me calendar events
all the time.
Yeah.
Oh, and LinkedIn is getting nasty with that too, man. People are like, hey, you're on our spotlight for CEO of the year. Pay us $5,000 and we'll do an article on you. Right? I get like 20 of those a day, but then I get the follow-ups. Hey, we didn't get a response. So here's a quick calendar invite if you want to talk it through. Like, no, you didn't get a response because I wasn't interested in the first place and you didn't give me an unsubscribe. That's why there was no response.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting, but I think if we take control back of your calendars, people, boy, that'll make a huge difference. Take control back of your calendars.
Yeah. I stepped backwards into that, Paul, with Calendly. With the radio show and interviews, when I was doing the work-life balance at 4:00 on every Friday, right? Trying to find the right Friday for the right people and all this stuff became too burdensome. So I started to look at, a scheduling tool, and I loved Calendly, but that's what allowed me to turn around and go, you know what? Here's a link in which you can book my time anytime you want. But then I had to be more focused on blocking the time for me.
Yes.
So think of it that way, is if I'm going to give you my calendar and let you select any time that you want, let's look at the calendar and make sure that you can't select a time I don't want you to.
Yeah.
And so I had to start getting more intentional. Like, I have a calendar invite for myself when I leave to go pick up my son from school, because I pick him up in the middle of the day every day. Right. So, at 3:45 every day, I got to leave and go get my son, which means I'm not going to take a meeting from 3:30 to 4:30. So at 3:30 to 4:30, he's got my son there every day. Also 7 to 8 a.m. every day is set that way so that people can't select that time. But that kind of stuff is what got me into that mentality of being able to book things on my calendar.
Yeah, that's good. This has been a great conversation. Last bit, I know we've talked about this before, but maybe it's a little tip and challenge. I know it's something that you do as well, at least maybe in a different way. But, a Scrum board or Kanban board concept for your own personal life has been really helpful for me, right? Our to-do, doing, done list. And my to-do list is long, but the beauty of it is I only put 3 maximum items in my doing column. I'm only working on a maximum of 3 items at one time. And so I got a little whiteboard here. I keep it up. I've got one at work, and it's just a way for me to capture what's happening. And somebody has something for me to do. Yeah, sure, I'll grab it, but I won't put it in my doing column. I'll put it in my to-do list. And then when the time's right, then I can go grab it if it's the appropriate time. Why? Because I'm trying to maintain that working memory in that doing column. And then I have that done column, which gives me that satisfaction, like, cool, baby, I got that thing done. It's awesome. Check that box. So you use something like that too, right?
Yeah, Kanban world, it's a WIP limit, is what it's called, work in progress limit.
Yep.
And it's very, very important that you understand the WIP limits of your team when you start to ask them to do certain things. And that's amazing to do for sure. So with that, Paul, I think we've had another fantastic episode here.
I hopefully we've added some value to folks and given them some practical tips, and we'd love to hear back from everybody. But yeah, this has been good, Rick. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for bringing up this topic, because this was your I don't know, maybe we both kind of agreed that this was something we needed to hit.
You started and we go back and forth and we land. But yeah, another fantastic topic, partner. And if you want to hear another great topic, just tune in next week. We'll continue this how-to series and talk to you again next time.
Yep, we'll see you, and visit us, guys, breakingaverage.com. We'd love to see you. Come visit us, but we'll see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Breaking Average podcast. If you loved what you heard, please take a moment to subscribe. All opinions and comments expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not reflect the opinions or views of any of the advertisers, producers, or platforms. This show was produced by R2 Multimedia. A special thank you to Milestone Melodies for our theme music. As you continue your day, what is one action that you can apply from this podcast to your life? Tune in for our next episode as we continue to challenge everyone to break average.